Many people waste their strength fighting enemies they can see with their eyes. But today, a hidden truth is being revealed. You do not need to lift a hand in battle. There is already a spiritual weapon waiting quietly in your kitchen. It is so ordinary that most people overlook it completely. Yet in the spiritual realm, it shakes the camp of the wicked and causes enemies to plead for mercy. That weapon is salt. It is not only for seasoning food, but stands as a divine sign of preservation, purity, and covenant. The mistake many make is believing that life's battles are fought with arguments, fists, anger, or revenge. The deeper truth is that life is spiritual, and victory comes through spiritual laws, not physical struggle. When you fight with your own strength, you become exhausted, frustrated, and wounded. But when you allow God to fight through his symbols, you remain at peace while your enemies scatter in confusion. Salt is one of those sacred symbols that darkness fears. From ancient times, salt has represented preservation. When you sprinkle it with faith, you are not merely dropping grains on the ground. You are raising a barrier that evil spirits cannot cross. The wicked may unite against you, but when the covenant of salt speaks, their own schemes turn against them. It is a silent act in the natural world, yet in the spirit it thunders loudly and shatters the foundations of evil. Imagine this scene. Instead of plotting revenge against those who harmed you, instead of wasting nights crying over betrayal, you rise at midnight, hold simple salt in your hand, and speak with authority. By the covenant of salt, I cancel every curse. I block every evil work. I return every wicked arrow to its sender. At that moment, something shifts. Those who planned your downfall begin to stumble into their own traps. Enemies gain power when you fight them in the flesh, because that is their territory. But when you use spiritual principles like salt, you shift the battle into God's domain, where darkness has no authority. That is why the instruction is simple. Do not fight your enemies. Use salt and watch them fall into confusion. They will not understand why nothing they try succeeds. They will wonder why their curses turn into blessings in your life, and why their secret meetings collapse into chaos. Salt shows no respect for witches, demons, or spoken curses. Once it is dedicated through prayer and released as a tool of light, it alters the spiritual atmosphere around you. Darkness despises purity, and salt is purity you can physically touch. This is why witches cannot endure it. When a child of God seals their home with salt, the spiritual realm sees a wall of fire, a shield that blocks all entry. This is why careful attention is needed. The weapon you seek is already in your hands. You do not need charms, special objects, or costly rituals. You do not need to beg anyone for deliverance. You do not need to pay large sums for strange ceremonies. With faith, prayer, and salt, your home becomes untouchable. Your life is guarded, and your enemies eventually surrender in defeat. When salt is mentioned, most people think only of cooking. But spiritually, it carries far greater meaning. Salt holds the mystery of covenant. In ancient days, when two people formed a covenant, they shared salt as a sign that the agreement was unbreakable. In the same way, when you use salt with faith in God, you stand on a covenant of protection that witchcraft, jealousy, and evil eyes cannot destroy. It is a spiritual shield that does not crack. Salt also represents preservation. Just as it keeps food from spoiling, it keeps your destiny from decay. The enemy may have laid traps against your job, your health, your marriage, or your children. But when salt is used spiritually, it halts destruction. Every plan to stain your name, block your progress, or waste your future loses its power. Salt declares, you will not rot, you will not be wasted, your blessings are preserved. Another hidden power of salt is purification. It cleans water, treats wounds, and refreshes the air. That is why when you sprinkle salt in your home after prayer, you are cleansing the spiritual environment. Hidden spirits lurking in dark corners cannot endure that purity. They flee, and peace takes their place. Enemies who once entered easily suddenly find every path blocked. Salt also speaks of worth. In earlier times, salt was so valuable it was used as currency. Spiritually, this means that when you use salt with intention, you declare your value before God and people. Those who tried to belittle you, insult you, or reduce you to nothing are forced to recognize your worth. Shame covers them as your life rises in honor. Salt lifts your spiritual value to a level where it cannot be trampled. The reason salt troubles enemies so deeply is because they thrive on corruption, decay, and uncleanness. Witchcraft feeds on filth. Evil spirits inhabit polluted places. Curses grow where weakness remains. When salt enters the atmosphere, these powers lose their source of strength. The power is cut off at the root. It is like flooding darkness with light. Darkness cannot debate. It must flee. Understand this clearly. Complicated rituals are not required. Hold salt in your hand. Speak with authority. Sprinkle it in faith. The power is not in the quantity of salt, but in the authority behind the words spoken. A small amount, placed with faith and purpose, becomes a spiritual sword that defeats enemies without physical struggle. Your adversaries will be confused by their sudden inability to touch your life. They will gather, make plans, and scheme, yet every plan collapses. Their curses return to their own homes. Their jealousy consumes them from within. Their wicked intentions turn into disorder. Why does this happen? Because salt has formed a divine boundary around you, and God honors the covenant of salt. Never underestimate what seems small. The enemy fears simple symbols that God uses to shame powerful forces. Just as David used a stone to defeat Goliath, salt can bring down the giants of witchcraft and oppression. The world may mock such simplicity, but those same voices will be astonished when they see your enemies pleading for mercy while you stand protected and victorious. One of the strongest spiritual uses of salt is at your doorway. A doorway is more than a physical entrance. It is a spiritual gate. Many attacks enter through gates. When you sprinkle salt across your doorway after prayer, you declare that no evil spirit, curse, or hostile force may cross that line. The moment they attempt to enter, the covenant of preservation causes them to stumble. Think carefully. How often have people entered your home and afterward conflict, sickness, or misfortune followed? Sometimes it is not the person, but the spirit accompanying them. Sealing your doorway with salt sends a clear message to the unseen world. This house is forbidden territory. No curse may enter, no witchcraft may cross. It is a simple act, but spiritually, it is a blazing wall of fire. Another powerful use is placing salt in the corners of your home. Dark spirits prefer corners, hidden spaces, and neglected areas. This is often why tension rises, children behave strangely, or fear appears at night. When you sprinkle salt with prayer in those corners, you remove their hiding places. They have nowhere to stay and are forced to leave. The peace that follows feels unexpected as your home begins to carry the scent of spiritual purity. Salt can also be mixed with water for cleansing. Dissolve salt in a bowl of water, pray over it, and that water becomes a spiritual cleanser. Wash your hands, your face, or lightly sprinkle it around your room. This act declares purification over your body and environment. Every curse of delay, rejection, and stagnation is broken as you cleanse with salt. Doors begin to open because your spiritual atmosphere has been purified. Another method is using salt in prayer circles. Place salt around your prayer space and declare that no evil force may cross that boundary while you pray. Your prayers gain strength because distractions and interference are blocked. Inside that circle, your words rise with fire, unhindered. The enemy retreats because the purity of salt suffocates their influence. Those who once had easy access to your life suddenly find the door closed. They may attempt to send spiritual attacks, but when those attacks strike the wall of salt, they rebound to the sender. This is why many who practice witchcraft end up crying for mercy when believers use salt. The curses they release return with force, leaving them exposed and confused. This is not superstition. It is spiritual understanding. God consistently uses simple tools to defeat complex powers. Just as Moses' staff divided the sea, salt in faithful hands becomes more than grains. It becomes a spiritual divider, separating you from evil and separating evil from you. It is a covenant instrument that silences hostile voices and restores peace to your household. Witchcraft thrives in secrecy, shadows, and fear, but salt exposes and destroys it instantly. When an enemy sends an arrow against you, they expect an open door, a weakness, a place to land. But when salt has sealed your life, there is no entrance. Their arrows return, their plans collapse. and their confidence melts away. You remain calm, preserved, and secure, standing under a covenant that does not fail. Place to land. But when salt has been used with prayer, every door is sealed shut. Their arrows strike an invisible wall and return to them with multiplied force. This is why salt makes witches cry out for mercy, because they are struck by the very curses they released. What they intended for your destruction becomes the cause of their own downfall. Many testimonies exist of people who endured long seasons of oppression until they discovered the covenant of salt. Nightmares stopped, financial troubles eased, strange illnesses disappeared, simply because homes were sealed with salt through prayer. The enemy despises purity and preservation, and salt carries both. It draws a line unseen by human eyes that the wicked cannot cross. When they attempt to cross it, they fall into the traps they prepared themselves. This is why Scripture calls believers the salt of the earth. Salt carries authority in both the natural and spiritual realms. Sealing your home with salt is among the most effective tools of spiritual warfare. There is no need to shout or physically struggle. Walk quietly through your home at midnight. Sprinkle salt at doors, windows, and gates, declaring, "This house is sealed by the covenant of salt. No curse, no witchcraft, no demon shall enter here." As you do this, you are drawing a circle of preservation that cannot be broken. Evil forces see your home shining in the spirit and retreat in fear. Curses cannot stand where salt has been applied. A curse grows through decay and impurity, but salt stops its growth completely. When someone speaks a curse against you, take salt into your hands and say, "This curse has no power over me. I am preserved." Wash your hands with water mixed with salt and feel the heaviness lift. That curse loses its grip on your destiny. Instead of carrying burdens placed by others, you carry blessings protected by God's covenant. Salt may also be poured at crossroads or paths where you sense spiritual heaviness. Many works of witchcraft are planted in such locations. When salt is poured there with prayer, their networks collapse. Their altars fall because the purity of salt disrupts their spells. They may gather again to restore their power, only to find it gone. You did not fight them. The covenant of salt fought on your behalf. Salt also breaks generational curses. Families trapped in repeated cycles of poverty, sickness, or early death can rise through prayer with salt. When you stand holding salt and declare that every destructive pattern ends with you, you mark the boundary where the curse stops. It cannot cross the covenant line of salt. From that moment, your family line steps into freedom. Those who enforce those curses lose their grip and cry out in defeat. Enemies do not beg for mercy because you attack them physically. They cry because spiritual law has turned against them. Salt is not revenge. Salt is divine justice. It returns every arrow, every curse, every wicked scheme to its origin. When the wicked taste the harvest of their own actions, they are forced to surrender and admit that you cannot be harmed. Many people misunderstand and think salt alone holds power. The truth goes deeper. Salt is a symbol, a physical point of contact that carries spiritual meaning. Without faith, it is only seasoning. But when words of authority are spoken over it, that salt becomes a weapon of light recognized in heaven and feared in darkness. This is not superstition. It is awakening to the truth that God uses simple things to confound the wise. When you hold salt and pray, you are not just holding grains. You are holding a covenant. You are declaring, "My life is preserved, my destiny is pure, my household is sealed." This understanding is what activates power. Spirits do not flee because they see salt. They flee because of faith-filled words released through it. This is why some people use salt and see no change, while others use it and experience immediate breakthroughs. The difference is awareness, knowing the authority behind the act. This is where reflection matters. Ask yourself, are you still fighting visible enemies? Are you draining yourself through anger, arguments, and revenge? Or have you realized that your battles are spiritual and must be fought with spiritual tools? Salt awakens you to this truth. It shifts your focus from fighting people to confronting the unseen enemy. It opens your eyes to understand that victory does not come from your strength, but from God's covenant. you begin to carry a calm that others cannot explain. People may ask, why don't you fight back? Why don't you curse those who curse you? Your answer becomes simple. There is no need to fight. The covenant fights for you. This is awakening. Salt brings confidence that your life is sealed, that you are untouchable, and that anyone who rises against you will scatter. It is a spiritual maturity that lifts you above small battles and places you on a higher level of victory. Salt also teaches humility. Think about holding something so common and inexpensive, yet so powerful in the spirit. It reminds you that God does not need grand tools to bring deliverance. He uses the ordinary to create extraordinary results. That is why small things should never be despised. Awakening comes when you realize the greatest battles of your life can be won with the smallest tools, as long as God's hand is upon them. As this truth settles in you, salt becomes a daily reminder of who you are. You are preserved, you are pure, you are valuable, you are untouchable. Salt is not only for moments of warfare, it reflects your identity. When you walk in that identity, your enemies sense it. They attempt to oppose you but break themselves. They try to curse you and end up blessing you, all because you understand that you are salt, and where you stand, corruption cannot survive. This is why awareness is essential. It is not about scattering salt mindlessly. It is about aligning your spirit with God's truth. When you act from that alignment, you act with authority. That authority is what causes enemies to cry for mercy, because they realize they are no longer fighting you. They are contending with the covenant that preserves you. Now that the covenant of salt has been revealed, it is time to activate it. Do not wait until attacks intensify. Take salt in your hand tonight and declare your victory. Go to a quiet place, preferably at midnight when spiritual movement is high, and hold a handful of salt. Lift it and pray. By this salt, declare that your life is preserved, your home is sealed, and your enemies are defeated. As those words leave your mouth, the salt becomes fire in the spirit. Begin at your doorway. Sprinkle salt at the entrance and declare, no curse shall cross this boundary. No witchcraft shall enter. No demon shall step into this home. Heaven responds to those words. You are not speaking into empty space. You are addressing the spiritual realm, and your salt becomes a burning line that darkness cannot cross. Sleep with confidence, knowing that angels guard your doors. Move next to the corners of your home. Sprinkle salt in hidden places and say, I cleanse this house of every darkness. I remove every spirit of conflict, sickness, and fear. This home shall overflow with light, peace, and increase. As you speak, the atmosphere shifts, the heaviness lifts, strange disturbances cease, peace settles like a covering. You may also wash your hands with salted water, declaring that every curse of delay, rejection, and stagnation is broken. Say that your hands will prosper, your work will flourish, and your destiny will shine. As the water flows away, imagine every chain dissolving and every blockage clearing. Rise with a renewed presence that attracts blessings instead of attacks. Then lift the remaining salt and make your final declaration. Say that every arrow sent against you returns to its sender. Every curse spoken over your life backfires. Every witchcraft operation collapses. Declare that you are untouchable, your home preserved, and your life sealed in victory. As these words are released, a spiritual law is activated. Those who planned your fall will stumble into their own traps. Those who cursed you will reap the fruit of their own speech. Enemies will wake in confusion, realizing their power no longer works. Some will confess, others will withdraw, and some will cry for mercy as their plans turn against them. You will walk in peace without lifting a hand, preserved by the covenant of salt. This is the strength of final activation. Quiet yet powerful, simple yet unstoppable, humble yet victorious. Having learned this mystery, do not ignore it. Wisdom unused brings no benefit. Take action today. Take salt from your kitchen. Lift it in prayer and watch God fight for you. You will see battles end unexpectedly, hidden enemies exposed, curses shatter like glass. What others pursue through endless struggle, you will receive through a simple act of faith. Never look down on what appears ordinary. Darkness celebrates when you fight in the flesh, but it trembles when you apply spiritual law. Salt is one of those laws. The enemy knows that once it is activated with authority, Access is denied, arrows are blocked, and power collapses. They are left with no choice but to plead for mercy, because their plans have turned against them. Action brings victory, while delay gives the enemy opportunity. Obedience secures triumph. Come back with your testimony. Share what you noticed after sealing your door with salt, after washing your hands with salt water, after making that midnight declaration. Many people will doubt until they hear your experience, and your story will open their eyes. When you speak of peace where there was once chaos, of breakthroughs where there was delay, or freedom where there was bondage, others will recognize the strength of this covenant. Remember, this is not magic and it is not superstition. It is faith. Salt is only a symbol, and the true power comes from God. Do not place your trust in the salt itself. Place your trust in the God who honors the covenant behind it. As you act, invite His presence, speak His authority, and declare His promises. That is what creates the difference. Without Him, salt is nothing more than seasoning, but with Him, it becomes a sword of victory. So tonight, rise with boldness, take your salt, pray with passion, and watch your enemies cry out for mercy. When the results begin to show, do not hide them. Share this message with your family, your friends, and your community. Spread the light so that others living under oppression can also discover freedom. Let these words become a movement of people who refuse to fight in the flesh, but win every battle in the Spirit. Stay connected to this truth. Do not just hear it once and forget. Listen again until it sinks deeply into your spirit. Pray with it, act on it, and share it. Stand with believers who understand that the battle belongs to God. Your victory is already sealed. Never fight your enemies directly. Use this way and watch them surrender in defeat. As you take this step of faith, remember, you are not alone on this path. You are part of a spiritual family that fights unseen battles and walks in divine triumph. Every testimony you share becomes a weapon that strengthens another soul. This is wisdom that reveals truth, where light exposes darkness and understanding awakens restoration. Many people face the same struggles repeatedly. They pray, they fast, they declare words, yet the conflict continues. Often the reason is that they have not applied the practical symbols God has provided to enforce victory in the spiritual realm. Faith without corresponding action remains incomplete. The covenant of salt is one of those powerful actions that completes faith and seals triumph. It is the physical expression that gives substance to spiritual declarations. Think of the children of Israel trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army. God did not only tell them to pray, He instructed Moses to lift his rod. Prayer mattered, but the action activated the miracle. In the same way, prayer is essential, but when you add the covenant action of salt, you are lifting your rod. You are giving God something tangible to work through. You are demonstrating faith in a form the spiritual realm recognizes and responds to. Some may ask why salt is used instead of something else. It is because God chose it and assigned spiritual meaning to it from the beginning. In the book of Kings, the prophet Elisha used salt to heal the polluted waters of Jericho. He did not only pray, he threw salt into the source and declared God's healing. The salt became the point of contact for the miracle. Your life may feel like polluted water, affected by curses, stagnation, or bitterness. But when you apply salt with a declaration of faith, you are placing it at the root of the issue, and God releases restoration. Do not wait for a major crisis before using this weapon. Make it part of your spiritual maintenance. Just as you clean your home physically, you must also cleanse it spiritually. Just as you bathe your body, you must cleanse your atmosphere. Salt becomes your spiritual cleanser, helping you maintain peace, purity, and victory. A wise builder does not wait for a wall to collapse before repairing it. He maintains it regularly. In the same way, do not wait for intense spiritual attack before sealing your home. Use salt regularly to keep your spiritual walls strong. Your home should be a sanctuary, a place of refuge where God's presence flows freely. If it is not intentionally sealed and cleansed, it can become a playground for dark influences. They enter through spiritual doors such as unforgiveness, fear, conflict, or even through physical gates left unsealed in prayer. Regular use of salt acts like a permanent warning sign in the spirit, declaring that this territory is occupied. It announces that this space is covered by the blood of Jesus and sealed by covenant. Dark forces have no legal access. The same principle applies to your life. You are the temple of the Holy Spirit, and you must be preserved. Just as daily bathing keeps the body clean, spiritual cleansing keeps your life protected. Washing your hands with salt water is not ritualism. It is a faith action declaring purification from every spiritual contamination encountered. It says you break every curse picked up through contact, money, words, or association. It is a practical way to walk in holiness and safety. For business owners, this principle is especially important. Your workplace, shop, or office is an extension of your destiny. It can become a target for envy and spiritual attacks against your finances. Go to your place of work and sprinkle salt at the entrance, corners, and perimeter. Declare that the business is sealed by covenant. Cancel every curse of failure, lack, and diversion of customers. Command that every transaction be blessed and that favor and prosperity flow freely. If you're a student, seal your room, your books, and your study space. Declare clarity of mind and preservation of memory. Break every curse of confusion and failure. If you are a driver, seal your vehicle. Sprinkle salt and pray against accidents and danger. The principle remains the same. Wherever God has given you responsibility, you must exercise authority using the tools He has provided. Perhaps there is a specific enemy in your life, someone determined to see you fall. The natural response is confrontation, anger, or argument. But choose a higher way. Do not fight them. Take a small amount of salt, go to a quiet place, and hold it in your hand. Speak the name of that person and declare that you stand on God's covenant of preservation and purity. Return every arrow sent against you. Seal your life from their attacks and declare that every plot they plan will fail. You may keep the salt sealed as a symbolic barrier or release it as the Spirit leads, showing you have handed the matter to God. This is not hatred. It is divine justice. You are enforcing the spiritual law that no weapon formed against you will prosper. One beauty of this covenant is that it works while you sleep. It works while you live peacefully. You do not need to remain anxious, watching for attacks. Once the salt is applied in faith, a spiritual guard is stationed. The covenant operates continuously. Your enemies lose sleep instead, wondering why their power has vanished, why their secrets are exposed, and why their plans collapse. The covenant of salt quietly turns the tables. This is God's wisdom, using simple things to shame the strong, using what seems weak to defeat what appears powerful. You are not weak for using salt. You are wise, operating in a higher spiritual law that surpasses flesh and blood. This gives you confidence that you serve a God who has already supplied everything needed for victory. Your role is to believe, obey, and apply the tools He has graciously given. From today onward, let salt become your silent companion in spiritual warfare. Let it help you maintain peace and victory. Keep it close as a reminder that you are preserved, pure, valuable, and sealed by covenant. As you walk in this understanding, you will experience a level of peace that confuses others. They will see your calm during storms and ask for your secret. You will tell them about the God who fights for His children and the simple covenant He provided to enforce His will on earth. Perhaps you feel you have tried everything. You prayed, fasted, and declared scripture, yet resistance remains. In this place of frustration, God introduces divine simplicity. The enemy wants to complicate warfare, making it feel unreachable. God simplifies it, placing the weapon in your kitchen. Victory does not come from effort, but from obedience to what God has already given. Consider the authority you carry. When you take salt in your hand and act in faith, you are not performing a ritual. You are standing in covenant, enforcing spiritual law, and declaring that your life belongs to God and cannot be touched. That salt, you are not merely holding a mineral. You are a covenant child of God, exercising the terms of your Father's agreement. You are acting as a priest over your life and household. The salt in your hand is like the incense in the priest's censer in the temple. It is a sacred instrument, set apart for divine purposes. When you sprinkle it, you are not merely throwing salt. You are releasing a fragrance of covenant obedience that ascends to heaven and commands attention in the spirit realm. There is a profound lesson in the story of the widow with the pot of oil. Her miracle was locked in what she already possessed. The prophet did not give her something new. He instructed her to use what she already had. For you, it is salt. Your deliverance, your preservation, your breakthrough is contained in the simple, overlooked things God has placed within your reach. Your act of faith in using it is the key that unlocks the miracle. Do not underestimate the power of your declaration over salt. Your words are not just sounds. They carry spirit and life. They carry creative power. When you declare God's covenant over that salt, you are assigning it a spiritual purpose. You are charging it with authority, much like a battery is charged with energy. It is no longer just seasoning. It becomes a weapon of preservation, a barrier against evil, and an agent of purity. From that moment forward, each grain carries that assigned purpose into the spiritual atmosphere surrounding you. This teaches profound stewardship. God has given you dominion over your environment, your home, your body, and your family. Using salt is an exercise of that dominion. You declare, I will not be a passive target of spiritual attacks. I am a proactive steward, using my God-given authority to establish a territory of light here. Such active faith pleases God and triggers His intervention. For those struggling with persistent nightmares or spiritual disturbances at night, salt can be the answer. Place a small bowl of salt near your bed. Before sleep, lay your hands on it and pray, declaring, by this covenant my sleep is sacred. This room is a place of divine rest. Every dream sent to torment me is nullified. I command peace and angelic protection over this room throughout the night. You will notice profound peace and uninterrupted rest, as the salt acts as a silent guardian enforcing your declaration. If you are seeking a new job or a home, carry salt before an interview or visit. Pray over a small portion and place it in your pocket. You carry the covenant of favor with you. When visiting a potential house, if spiritual heaviness is felt, quietly sprinkle salt at the entrance and corners, breaking curses and dedicating the space to God. You are not merely looking for a property. You are claiming a territory for God's kingdom. The purpose is not to become superstitious, but to awaken your faith to the spiritual weapons God provides. Salt serves as a tangible tool connecting your faith to the spiritual realm. It bridges your declaration and its manifestation, showing physically that you are acting against spiritual battles. Change your perspective. See the salt in your kitchen not as seasoning, but as a vial of spiritual authority. It is a symbol of your covenant, a token of preservation, and a weapon in your spiritual arsenal. Use it boldly, confident that you are operating under a divine principle honored by God. Walk with assurance, speak with authority, act with faith. You are not powerless. You are a formidable agent in the kingdom of light. Let every grain of salt dropped from your hand declare to the spiritual realm that you know who you are and the authority you possess. This is Joshua Selman's wisdom, empowering you to live a victorious life of dominion and power through understanding and applying God's eternal truths. The connection between physical action and spiritual release is profound. Many believers struggle because their faith remains internal, never translating into tangible action that gives it substance. By taking salt and applying it according to God's principles, you create a spiritual point of contact. You establish an altar, a spiritual landmark declaring, "Today I stood on God's covenant and enforced His word over my circumstances." This becomes a reference point, a testimony of obedience and God's faithfulness. Reflect on the walls of Jericho. Victory did not come from shouting alone. It came from walking, obeying repeated instructions over time. Your consistent use of salt is your personal walk around Jericho. Each sprinkle weakens the enemy's strongholds and prepares for the ultimate shout of victory. Do not disregard consistency. Power comes from persistent covenant application, not a one-time emotional act. Your home is more than bricks. It is a spiritual embassy, an outpost of heaven on earth. Just as embassies fly flags and are protected by their nation's laws, your home flies the banner of Jehovah Nissi and is protected by heaven's laws. Using salt is like raising that flag, declaring extraterritoriality, signaling that curses, witchcraft, and demonic intrusion have no jurisdiction. The soil of your home becomes holy ground dedicated to God. Consider spiritual hygiene. Just as a physically dirty environment is intolerable, so is a spiritually polluted one. Unseen forces can leave residues of hatred, strife, fear, and other darkness, attracting more evil. Prayerful application of salt acts as a spiritual disinfectant, cleansing residues, breaking negative cycles, and creating space for the Holy Spirit. You will sense lighter air, clearer minds, and tangible peace. Salt can also seal relationships and futures. Mix 2 pinches in a small container and pray, declaring that just as these grains are united and inseparable, so your relationship or marriage will be preserved, purified, and protected from divisive spirits, soul ties, or attacks of infidelity. Keep the container as a covenant symbol. For those seeking a godly spouse, carry it and declare your future union is already sealed. Parents also have a sacred duty to protect their children's destinies. Children are targets for attacks manifested as fear, sickness, or rebellion. Go into their rooms while they sleep, sprinkle salt at doorways and windowsills, lay hands on their foreheads and declare, "This child is preserved for God's glory. No evil plan shall prosper. Their dreams, health, and future are secured by the blood of Jesus and the covenant of salt." You are building a wall of protection around the next generation. In finances, preservation is critical. The enemy aims to spoil blessings before you can enjoy or use them for God's kingdom. Place salt with your wallet, bank statements, or financial documents. Pray declaring, "My finances are preserved. Every seed sown is protected. Sources of income are purified and blessed. I break every curse of lack, debt, or sudden loss. My money is salted with covenant and fulfills its divine purpose." You are spiritually insulating your economic life. The ultimate power is not in salt, but in God, whom the salt represents. Confidence comes from His faithfulness, not the method. Salt serves as the vessel through which faith is expressed, preventing superstition and anchoring you in a relationship with the living God. He is the preserver of your soul, purifier of your heart, and faithful to His covenant. Let your life become a testimony of divine preservation. Let people marvel at how you remain unharmed amid chaos. Let your home shine as a sanctuary in a troubled environment. Let them observe your children and witness their grace and favor. When they ask, point to the faithful God who grants simple yet powerful keys to victory. You are the salt of the earth. Now you understand how to wield this identity with power and purpose. This is Joshua Selman's wisdom, leading you into the deep truths of the kingdom, empowering a life of undeniable victory, preserved, purified, and powerful for God's glory.